Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another Johnny TCG video. I'm Johnny TCG. I'm happy to see you here today, and we're taking a look at one of my favorite characters in the entire One Piece series, and that is the one, the only Buggy the Clown. Who doesn't love Buggy? Buggy Chads, now is our time because we just got some amazing support. Okay, we didn't get it yet. It's coming out in a couple weeks, but we are finally getting the 7-cost promo that completely changes how this deck plays into the meta, and I think completely changes the viability of it. On today's agenda, we're going to take a look at this leader and this deck list. I'm really liking this deck list. It's the one I'm most comfortable with, and I think you will enjoy it too. I think it's a great place to start out with your own testing, and then you can make changes from there. Then, of course, we've got a giveaway. If you're new to the channel, we do a giveaway in just about every single video. Today, we're going to be giving away a custom Buggy Down card. If you're going to run the Buggy leader, you're going to need Don cards to match it, and you're really going to want to stick around and check out this custom Don. And then, of course, we do have games on the sim where we're going to be taking a look at this leader, how he does in the OP10 format, and talk about it after. Before we get into the deck profile though, I do have to give a shout out to Kaizoku Cards for sending me this custom Buggy leader card. His website is full of crazy custom leaders. I personally really like this Buggy one. It matches my Shanks one perfectly. I love the cartoony style, so consider checking them out. Their work is amazing and I don't think you'll regret it. Getting right into it, let's take a look at our Buggy leader card. 5,000 power, mono blue leader with 5 life. Activate main, you may rest 5 down cards, then trash 1 card from your hand, then play out 1 cross guild type character from your hand. This is crazy. Definitely take note of the fact that it does not say once per turn, meaning you can do this twice per turn if you're feeling really crazy. And there are some situations where this can lead to an insane combo. I do think I actually pulled this off in at least one of the games. Stay tuned for those. It's really cool to see this combo in action where you rest 5 Don and get a 10 cost character, the 10 cost Buggy to be exact, and then you can actually do that twice in 1 turn, which is insane. I believe that's in the Bonney game, so stay tuned for that. I believe that happens in the Bonney game, so you're going to want to check that out. One thing to note about it is that you do have to trash a card from your hand when you use it, and so as you'll see with this deck list, we have a lot of cards that help us draw, just because we're going to need to draw a lot to maintain this leader ability into the late game. It's very easy to burn out if you spam this leader ability early and you don't have cards that can help you get card advantage. In OP10 for the most part, this leader was pretty mid. You could definitely sneak up on people, and when you draw well and just see all your bodies, if they can't remove them in time, you're going to be able to develop a diabolical board. But now that we're getting the promo during the OP10 pre-release, the game is going to be changed for Buggy. He is back. Or he's just arrived, I guess. Looking at the deck list, starting off with Mr. 1 Daz Bones. This is the 5 cost, 6,000 power, 1k counter one from EBO1. We're only running 2 of these, but honestly after testing, I don't think you're crazy if you bump him up to 3 or 4. He has the on-play ability of drawing 2, trashing 1, and this goes perfectly with our leader ability. As I said, you're going to need to compensate for the amount of cards you're trashing from hand. And what better way to do it than to draw 2, trash 1 to get you some card advantage. He's a great body to play off of the 7 cost Crocodile that we also run in this deck. Being able to cheat this out on turn 5, playing a 7 cost 7,000 power body along with a 5 cost 6,000 power body that lets you draw 2, trash 1 is super strong. It's going to be really hard for your opponent to deal with that combo. There's also the 5 cost 7,000 power Mr. 1 Daz Bones that is really good, but in a lot of circumstances, I do actually prefer the 5 cost 6,000 power one because it has that draw ability, so consider that when you're making your own version of this deck list. Next, we've got 4 5 cost 5,000 power 2k counter Mr. 2 Bonclay from OP02. This is mostly 99% of the time just being used as a 2k. He's got the when attacking ability of Don times 1. You may trash 1 card from your hand, return 1 character with a cost of 2 or less to the owner's hand. Then when this battle ends, you put this card at the bottom of your deck. It's a very strange when attacking. I guess hypothetically it could get rid of a 2 cost chump blocker, but for the most part we're not using him as an attacker. He can be used to get that 4 character threshold that we need for our 10 cost Buggy, but you're going to be using him as a counter most likely. 2 4 cost 4,000 power 1k counter Charlotte Puddings. We all know this card. We all love this card. Making your opponent reshuffle their hand and drawing 5. This can be an absolute diabolical card to play when your opponent has accumulated a big hand size. There's not a lot to say about it. 2 of them seems fine for me. You know, it's not a necessary card for your game plan, but it's undeniably really strong in certain situations, and so that's why I think we need to run him. We're running 2 of the Margaret 3 cost 2000 power blockers from OP10. This is simply just a blocker that allows us to draw a card on play. On turn 2, this is a really solid play. Developing a blocker and drawing an extra card is really helpful, and then some decks can't really deal with small chump blockers very well, so you can get some use out of it that way. Other decks like Dofi will be able to bounce this right back to your hand, but at the end of the day, you can also trash it with your leader ability, and I think that's pretty solid. We're running 4 of the 5 cost 5000 power 2k counter Cabbages. This is simply used for the most part as a 2k counter like the Mr. Tube on Clay, but it can be played out and still be decent. His ability is that if you have a Buggy or emoji character in play, this character cannot be KO'd in battle, which is pretty strong. With the release of the new 7 cost promo Buggy, this effect does become more likely to happen, as in most matchups you'll try to get that 7 cost Buggy out. But before that 7 cost Buggy was revealed to us, this card wasn't really going to be used as an attacker, more so just as a 2k counter. 4 of the 7 cost 7000 power Crocodiles from OP09, it's got 1k counter, which is really strong for a super rare, and then he's got the on play of being able to play out a 5 cost Cross Guild or Baroque Works type character from your hand. Our targets for these are mostly going to be Mr. One Daz Bones, whether it be this version, the 5 cost 7000 power, or the 5 cost 6000 power. There's nothing much to say about this combo, is that it's just amazing to cheat out a 7 cost body on your 5 Don turn. Also can play out more bodies, like that's just amazing. Next, we're running 4 of the 6 cost 7000 power Dracula Mihawk blockers. I've seen this card ran at 3 or even 2, but for me I really like it at 4 of just because it goes so well with our leader, and then also it pairs very nicely with the new 7 cost promo Buggy. On play, you get to draw 2 trash 1. Who doesn't love that? You can cheat it out early with your leader ability or with the promo Buggy, which we'll talk about in a moment. Next, we've got 4 of the Emperor Buggy. 10 cost 12,000 power is an absolute unit. Cheating him out with leader ability means you get to get him for 5 Don. Now, one thing to take note is that his on play allows you to bottom deck one of your opponent's characters, but then it checks your board, and if you do not have all 5 cost characters, this card bottom decks itself, which is crazy. So if you really want to maximize this, you're going to want to already have a board established of 4 other 5 cost or higher characters, but it can also be used in a pinch where you really just need to get one of your opponent's characters off the board. It's basically just a 5 cost Gum Gum Red Rock that requires you to trash a card from hand. And definitely note how crazy this is, that if you're playing Blackbeard and they prevent your on play effects, you can cheat this out with your leader ability for 5 Don and then not have to bottom deck him because you don't get his on play effect. We've got 4 of the 5 cost 5000 power emojis, just another 2k counter for the most part, but he also has the on play of looking at the top 5 of your deck, looking for a Richie, which is the 2 cost 2000 power blocker that does have 1k counter, just the chump block that we do get to search out with emoji, and then emoji allows you to play one from your hand as well. Even if you didn't search a Richie, you do get to play one if you have one in your hand, so keep that in mind. I really like that. This is probably my favorite 2k counter, even though we're only running 2 Richies, so this hit rate is not very high. It's still decent if you have the Richie already in your hand or just using it as a 2k counter. The 5 cost 7000 power Mr. One Daz Bones is really strong, but as I said before, I am leaning more towards the 6000 power one from EBO1. Depending on the matchup, having that 7000 power stat line will be really important, especially in the Shanks matchup. Having a 7000 power stat line, even if they use leader ability, will still require 2k worth of counter from them to get out of the hit, which is so much better than a 5000 power swing at their leader. On your 5 Don play, if you're able to establish the Crocodile and then this card as well, having 2 7000 power characters that your opponent is probably not going to be able to deal with next turn is just so strong. I think 4 of's good, but if you wanted to run him at 3 and then maybe another one of the other Mr. One Daz Bones, I think that works as well. We're running 4 of the Mr. 3 Gaudino. This is just your typical 1 cost 2000 power 1k counter searcher. You're looking for the top 4 for a Cross Guild or a Baroque Works type character, adding it to your hand. What more do you want me to say about this? This is the moment you've all been waiting for, the 7 cost 8000 power Buggy. This character cannot attack, which is such a disappointment because he is 8000 power, but he does have some really good effects that make it so even though he can't attack, he's still a really strong card. His first ability is that if your leader is Buggy, all 3 and 4 cost characters cannot attack. Now that is crazy, especially for decks like Blue Doflamingo. They are going to get absolutely destroyed by this card, which is really good in my opinion. You know, a great counter to the most popular deck in the format. Definitely note that your characters can attack either, so if you're planning on giving some Don to a Pudding or a Mr. 3 Gaudino, please keep in mind they won't be able to swing if you have this card on the field. Another amazing on-play ability of his is that you get to cheat out a cost 6 or less Cross Guild type character from your hand. Our number 1 target target for this is the 6-cost Mihawk. 6-cost Mihawk also allows you to draw 2 trash ones, so you're playing 2 cards out from your hand, maybe even trashing a card to get this out using leader ability, which is what you're most likely doing, and then you get to refill your hand a little bit by drawing with Mihawk, which is a good trade-off in my opinion. I'm not sure what the current standard is for Buggy decks, if 4 is what most people are running or if they're running less, but I don't really have a problem with running 4. Yes, it doesn't have counter, but we can trash it if we don't need it using leader ability anyway. That's one really cool thing about this deck, is that if you have a card that you just don't need, you're probably going to be able to get some value out of it by just trashing it with leader ability. I'm running 4 of the 3-cost Sanji's Pilaf. It lets you draw 2 cards, which is great, and you really need that card draw in my opinion to sustain your leader ability. This is mostly going to be used on turn 2. If it's past turn 2, this card can get a little bit awkward, but like I said with that promo Buggy, it can always just be trashed using leader ability, so I'm not really too worried about that. And then last but not least, we are running 2 of the Karai Bari Island. Now this is just Buggy stage. It's not really that crazy. What you do is you activate main, send 2 cards to the bottom of your deck, and then draw 2 cards. This definitely would have been better if they let you draw the 2 cards first and then chose what to bottom deck. That would have been really strong, but I don't think it would have made Buggy broken, you know? Like, this leader definitely has some room to grow, and that could have helped him out a little bit more is what I'm saying. And then of course the moment everyone's been waiting for, before we get into the gameplay, we do have the giveaway. Today we're going to be giving away a custom Buggy Don. Editor, throw it up on screen, boom. All you have to do to enter this giveaway is 1, leave a like, and 2, leave a comment. If this video gets 20 likes in the first 24 hours, I'll choose a random US-based commenter and send it to you for completely free. I do not own the art. It's official One Piece art. I am not the artist. I'm not selling this. It's just a fun personal project of mine. If you like the content, if you want to stay up to date, if you always want to be in the know for giveaways, consider hitting that subscribe button down below as well. It really helps out the channel. We're trying to hit 1,500 by the end of the month, and you're the one that can help us do that. So if you're not subscribed yet, consider hitting that subscribe button. And with that being said, editor, roll the gameplay. Our first match of the day is going to be against a green Bonney from OP10. They're choosing the turn order, and they are going to go first. This hand is alright. We're not going to mulligan it. I do like that we have Sanji's Pilaf. I do like that we have the stage as well. That'll help us cycle our cards and find the pieces we really want to find. Especially, I think the 10-cost Buggy will be good in this matchup, just so we're going to be able to pop some of their annoying bodies and hopefully establish a decent board. I think Bonney might have a good matchup into us, but we'll see. They're going to start off with a Jewelry Bonney search, resting her and then drawing the EBO1 Scratch Mana Poo. That's just a 2k counter. 7,000 at us now, and I think we just definitely take this. Off of our life, we are going to get that 6-cost Mihawk that pairs perfectly with the 7-cost Buggy. We are going to draw 2 cards with our Sanji's Pilaf and get a 2-cost Richie blocker and then another 6-cost Mihawk. I'm happy to have those. Then I'm going to use Stage, filtering 2 cards from my hand. Drawing into 2 Mr. One Daz Bones with that definitely was not ideal. Now we'll swing 6,000 into their Jewelry Bonney Searcher and just pass it to them. They're going to have 5 down to work with. We'll likely see a Cavendish. Cavendish is probably their best option right now. Establishing a Carrot wouldn't be bad either. They won't play anything down and just swing 10,000 at us, which feels so bad for them. That's great news for us. We will take that, and that's just tragic for them not to be able to establish a decent 5-cost body there, especially a Cavendish. Now we're just going to swing for 6,000 and then probably do the 7-cost Buggy into 6-cost Mihawk play. Using our leader ability, we'll trash a card from our hand. I'm thinking that we trash Richie. A chump blocker against Bonney can easily get rested, and so I'm thinking maybe that's just the best option for us to get rid of. Now we get to do the Buggy Mihawk combo, draw 2 cards. We'll trash 1. I'm actually going to trash my other 6-cost Mihawk. Maybe I should have trashed the Mr. One Daz Bones, but I do like the idea of finding a Crocodile and playing that Mr. One Daz Bones off of it. The Mihawk doesn't have counter, so that's why I got rid of it, but I also think that I have so much counter in my hand that it would have been fine to trash a counter card instead of the Mihawk. Surprisingly, they're going to throw 6 Don on their leader and swing 11,000 into us. We're going to take this one as well, even though we can technically counter out of it. We could even maybe block and counter out of it, but I don't think there's any point into using the counter on this. We're going to take that and we get the Mr. 3 Gaudino Searcher. Nothing too crazy there. 1 Don up for them to use their leader ability. I wonder if their hand is just bricked up or if this is an intentional strategy. Off the Mr. 3 Gaudino, we do find our 7-cost Crocodile that will be able to cheat out using leader ability. Combining him with Mr. One Daz Bones might be the play this turn. Then next turn we'll be all ready for a potential 10-cost Buggy play, cheating him out and then popping one of their characters. Now we're going to do 7,000 with the Mihawk blocker. We're going to do the Mihawk blocker just because they would have rested it anyway using leader ability, so we might as well swing for the most value. We're not going to use leader ability here to cheat out the Crocodile. Crocodile just to save one card from our hand, but we will play out the Crocodile and the Mr. One Bones. If we can keep this Dracula Mihawk alive this turn, we're going to be in a really good spot. 9 Don for them to work with. They're going to start off with a 7,000 power swing from their leader, leaving them only 7 Don to work with after this. We're not going to see an 8 cost useless Captain Kidd here, which is good news, even though we would be able to get rid of it pretty easily. We're going to start countering out of these hits just because I don't want to go any lower in life. For 6 Don, they will play down the Basil Hawkins blocker, which is a very nice card to play right here because it's going to be very annoying to remove. They'll be able to rest one of my characters if I try to remove it from the board, and so I could technically try to remove it twice in one turn, but that is kind of a pain and maybe more effort than it's worth. We're going to do the stage and cycle some cards. Putting back 2/2Ks might be a little bit questionable, but we do get the pudding, which I think could come in handy in this matchup just because Bonney really likes to keep a lot of cards in hand. We're going to start off with a 7,000 power swing from our Mr. One Bones, and they will rest our Dracula Mihawk using leader ability. Now, if they take a life or two here and have a big hand size, they might get hit with the pudding. Now they're going to be at 9 cards. Maybe now is the time to hit them with the pudding. We'll play her over the Mr. 3 Galdino, put them back down to 5 cards, and then we'll follow up with a 5,000 power swing from our leader, maybe getting them to free block with Basil Hawkins, and then we potentially swing into the Basil Hawkins with our Crocodile. That's a possible idea. We also might play down the Dracula Mihawk here for 6 Don anyway, so maybe we don't use our leader ability at all. We're going to go 7,000 into their life now. Not going to go into the Basil Hawkins just because that's an easier counter out of, because we do want to keep 6 Don open for the Dracula Mihawk. Drawing 2, trashing 1. We'll get rid of the Sanji's Pilaf. And now we are in a very good position for next turn. A 10 cost Doflamingo would go pretty hard here. They'd be able to freeze 3 of my characters or my leader. That would be very strong, but we would be able to pop it with our 10 cost Buggy. I wonder if that's in the back of their mind, that I do have this card that can get rid of any of their big bodies, basically. They're going to start off with a 5,000 power swing from their leader. I wonder if this is a test and they're trying to get me to free block with my 6 cost Dracula Mihawk blocker. I'm going to potentially take the bait and block with the Mihawk for free. If they want to swing into my life now with Hawkins, so be it. They will give Hawkins 1 Don and swing 8,000 into one of our rested 6 cost 7,000 power Dracula Mihawk, so that is an easy 2K counter from us. For 5 Don, they're going to play down the Cavendish, restand 2 Don, and then follow that up with a 5 cost Carrot as well. That's a very nice turn for them, but we're actually going to be able to clear both of those if we want to this turn. I'm thinking maybe we do 2 Buggy plays. Now the question is, what do we trash? Do we keep that 3rd Buggy in our hand, or do we trash one of those Buggies off of our leader ability? We're going to start off with a 7,000 power swing with Crocodile. They'll rest our standing Mihawk and then counter out of this with a 2K and a 1K. Getting down their hand size to 3 cards does feel very good for us, though. Now a 5,000 power swing with our leader. If they want to counter out of this, great. Even less cards in their hand, or if they take it, they're down to 1 life card. They will counter with the 2K counter to Shigi. Now I'm going to swing 7,000 at their life. They will take that, and I wonder if I should have swung into the Hawkins. Being able to clear their entire board this turn would be really strong and basically set me up for victory next turn. But instead, I'm going to swing into their life. They will take that and go down to 1 life card. If I can survive this next turn, I think I'm just guaranteed game. Now I'm going to use leader ability, play down the Buggy, pop the Cavendish. Now I'm going to do leader ability again, and this time I'm debating between trashing a Buggy or trashing a 2K counter emoji to play out a Buggy. I decided to get rid of my other Buggy, leaving me with no 10 cost Buggies in hand. We were able to clear 2 of their bodies, and that was questionable. Not like necessarily a bad play, but not having another Buggy means that if they play perhaps a 10 cost Dofi, I won't be able to get rid of it most likely next turn. But I still might be able to go for game. The fact that they're swinging 7,000 with the Hawkins tells me that they're going to push for game here and not try to extend the game and survive another turn or so. If their plan is to go for game this turn, that means that they probably have a Hody Jones coming down. And if that's the case, I think we are okay to take this hit and even the potential next hit if they throw down on their leader, then swing into us as well. 7,000 at us, we will take that. We get the 7 cost promo Buggy. That doesn't have any counter, but that's all right. 8 Don left for them to work with. They're swinging 7,000 with their leader now. I do need to counter out of this because if I don't, they can swing Hody Jones for 9,000, and I don't know what my last card of my life is. It would have been a 1K, so I would have been able to get out of it, but we can't guarantee that. So GG's. Bonney matchups are always such a grind. On to our next match. This is going to be against an OP10 Usopp, black and blue, one of the best new leaders in the game, if I say so myself. I think he's going to be really popular. We're on the even curve. We are going to start off with a Mr. 3 Galdino search. search, debating between a 10 cost Buggy and the 7 cost promo Buggy. I think we have to go with the 7 cost promo Buggy. Unfortunately, Usopp's ability might put some of their cards that wouldn't be able to attack normally with Buggy's ability out of the Buggy's ability's range. But it is what it is, and we'll deal with it. Buggy is still a great way to cheat out other cards and build your board. We're going to start off with a 6,000 power swing, which they'll block, and then get to draw a card using leader ability. Usopp has definitely been one of my hardest matchups, regardless of the leader I'm playing. I really need to practice more into this leader and just kind of learn how to beat it. They're going to swing 6,000 at us, and we will block with our Margaret. We played that down last turn. We're able to draw a card, and we're going to block with it so that we do get value from it. Their deck has a ton of ways to pop characters, bounce characters, etc., so we want to make sure we're getting value out of those blockers when we can. We're going to start off with a 6,000 power swing with our leader. I wouldn't be surprised to see them counter, and they do. They give us the 2k, and now with 5 down left to work with, we'll use leader ability. The question is, who do we want to play out? We'll get rid of one of our promo Buggies because now we do have 2, and that's a little unnecessary. With our leader ability, we're going to cheat out the 7 cost Crocodile, and then also the 5 cost Mr. 1 Daz Bones. The question is, do we do EBO1 Daz Bones or OP09 Daz Bones? The reason we went EBO1 Daz Bones, even though it is less powerful, is that it does allow us to draw a card, which we really do appreciate, because in this deck you really need a lot of cards in your hand so that you can consistently use your leader ability. You're going to be burning through cards and therefore need to draw cards a lot. They're going to swing 6,000 at us, and I'm actually going to 2k counter out of this. We are still at 4 life, which seems a little bit excessive for me to start countering out with 2ks, but the reason I'm doing that is, 1, they could run Pudding, and if they hit us with a Pudding, that would be devastating, and then 2, they could play cards like the 7 cost Secret Rare Luffy and the event that allows them to swing double attack, and those really creep up on you and catch you by surprise. And so to avoid that, I want to keep a little bit of a healthy life total. We're countering out of that. For 6 down, they're going to play Gum Gum Red Rock and bottom deck my Crocodile. RIP Crocodile, you were gone but not forgotten. We do have another one that will probably play this turn, along with another Mr. 1 Daz Bones from OP09. Before we swing or anything, we are going to play down a Sanji's Pilaf to draw 2 cards. We get the Richie and another Mr. 1 Daz Bones, the EBO1 one, so we might use that to draw 2 cards, trash 1. We're swinging 6,000 with Mr. 1 Daz Bones, and they will block that with Frankie. Off of Frankie's effect, they get to play another blocker from the trash. We are going to clear this blocker with our Mr. 3 Galdino. Now we're going to swing 5,000 with our leader. They might counter out of this. They still are at 4 life though, so they do take that. No cards on field, which is a very good feeling for us. We're going to trash our promo Buggy and play out another Crocodile using leader ability. With the Mr. 1 Daz Bones, we are going to draw 2 and trash a stage. Late in the game, I don't know how valuable this stage is. It's only a 1 cost, so it could be worse and could help us out if we're really looking for a 10 cost Buggy or a specific card, but right now I'm getting rid of it, keeping a lot of counter in hand, and yeah, I like where we're at right now. I'm actually feeling pretty good in this situation. For 7 down, they do have the Kairos to play down and bounce our Mr. 1 Daz Bones back to hand. That's not really a terrible play for us. We're not devastated by that. Now, they do still have 2 down to work with. They might just swing 7,000 with their leader, or maybe play out a blocker or a searcher or something. They're going to swing 6,000 into the Mr. 3 Galdino. I'm not sure if that was a mistake or just a misplay. I definitely think you should swing into life there, or maybe even Mr. 1 Daz Bones. If it was Mr. 1 Daz Bones, though, I would definitely counter out of it, though. So I'm going to let that Mr. 3 Galdino go, no doubt. Now 10,000 into the Mr. 1 Daz Bones, and we could be crazy and counter out of this. Do I really want to give them 3 cards from hand? And I do, just because I really want to keep the pressure up. That might have been a little bit questionable of a play. You can let me know down in the comments if you think it was. I will not be offended. For 3 down, we're going to play the Margaret. We get to draw a card, and we do draw into that 10 cost Buggy, which is great. Unfortunately, we can't use it this turn to establish it. We could use it to pop the Kairos, but I don't think that is the best play for us at the moment. I think maybe we just establish another 5 cost Mr. 1 Daz Bones on the field. We're going to start off with a 5,000 swing from our leader. They will 1k counter out of that, and I think we're just going to keep swinging at their life. 6,000 now with one of our Mr. 1 Daz Bones. They do take that. 7,000 now with Crocodile. I feel like they probably will counter out of this. Maybe they just don't have a lot of counter in their hand. No, they do. They will counter out of that hit. Now we're going to do another Mr. 1 Daz Bones, draw 2, trash 1. You know the deal by now. And then we'll play out a Richie blocker. These small body blockers are easily removed by Usopp, but they're better than nothing, and they can keep some of our bodies safe, hopefully, or at least they'll have to divert some of their attention to clearing them. So I'm happy to get them on the board and try to get some value from them. They're going to play down to Leo. Resting their stage, they're able to draw 2 cards, the Bartolomeo and the Zoro. Then they're going to trash another stage from their hand. They might play out the Zoro here and pop one of my blockers, Or they'll play down the Jozu, pop a 5-cost Mr. 1 Desbones back to my hand. This still leaves 3 Don for them to work with. I feel like they are probably going to clear at least one of my bodies this turn. If they can't get rid of any of my blockers though, I will be able to use those, so I might just do that. They'll start by giving 1 Don to their leader, then swinging 6,000 into my Mr. 1. I'm thinking here a 1k counter would do the trick, or maybe just a block is fine as well, because I do want to get value out of these blockers before they can get popped, but I do have a 1k counter in my hand, multiple 1k counters in my hand, so I'm leaning towards those, keeping the blockers alive, or maybe I should just get rid of Richie. I don't know. We're going to go with the 1k counter of Mr. 1 Desbones, the 5-cost 7,000 power one, because we do like that 5-cost 6,000 power because it does allow us to draw a card. Now 9,000 at our Crocodile, and this has got to be a block. And then with the remaining 2 Don, they do have the blocker and will pass it back to us. 10 Don for us to work with. It's tempting just to play down the Buggy not using leader ability and bouncing that Kyros to the bottom of their deck, or maybe using leader ability still and bouncing that Kyros back to the bottom of the deck just to get that out of the way, because it's their only menacing threat really. 5,000 we're going to start off with our Buggy. We actually could get the Buggy on board if we do leader ability twice this turn with Crocodile, Mr. 1, and then the Buggy, so I think that's going to be the move here. We didn't get any value out of this Margaret, which definitely feels really bad. I definitely should have countered with it or blocked with it last turn. I guess those are the types of things you really need to keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, and of course I could do a better job of that. We're going to trash 1 card from our hand. We're going to trash a... Are we really going to trash a 2k counter? That seems crazy. I think we go with the one of our 10-cost Buggies just because we have 2. We're going to go 7-cost Crocodile into the Mr. 1 Desbones, draw 2, trash 1. We find a 2k counter, which is very nice. And then we are going to trash a Mr. 2 Bon Clay, play out the 10-cost Buggy, pass it back to them after bottom decking their Kyros, and we are in such a good position now. Again, Dressrosa blue-black combo does have a lot of sneaky ways to take life from you. I'm looking at you, Secret Rare Luffy. I believe it's Kong Gatling that allows them to put 15 cards from their trash to the bottom of their deck and then swing double attack at us. Passing it back to them for 1 Don, they will play down a Leo, draw 2 cards. We're not really super worried right now. I think we're in a really good spot. If they block her up, then we might not be able to go for game next turn, but if they're not able to establish a bunch of blockers on the board, I think we just have this in the bag. For 4 Don, they do have the Dressrosa Cavendish from OP10. This is a new blue card that allows them to draw 2, trash 1. 6,000 into our Mr. 1 Desbones. I'm debating on whether or not to save it with our 1 card in our hand. It is a 2k counter. Maybe I should save that for our Crocodile in case they swing 7,000 into the Crocodile. I am thinking about letting it go though. That's what I'm leaning towards at least. Now the question is, will they swing just 7,000 into the Crocodile? If I can keep this Crocodile alive, I think the game is just in our hands. For 1 Don, they're going to play down the Rebecca Searcher, draw the Bartolomeo blocker. It's also a 2k counter, so even if they don't play it out, that's still a valuable find. For 1 Don, they'll play down a Leo 2, doing another search. They're really just searching for cards here, I guess looking for counter and blockers to play. They're going to draw another Bartolomeo and a Frankie. They're going to trash a Zoro from their hand. 3 Don left to work with. We could see a blocker here, but I doubt it's going to be enough. They'll play down the Bartolomeo and then swing 7,000 into our Crocodile, which we can counter out of. Passing it back to us, we will be able to just swing all out this turn. We're going to start off with 7,000 from one of our Crocodiles. I think we're just going to do 7,000, 7,000. Maybe 9,000 with Mr. 1, and then just continue throwing down on our bodies. They will counter out of that first swing, and now we're going to swing 7,000, which they will take, and 12,000 now with our Buggy. They'll block that, and yeah, this is just going to be GG's. Good game. We finally got that Usopp dub. Now we're going to have a game against a Black Smoker from OP2. This got a bunch of new support in the new starter decks, or I guess at this point in this video, those are no longer considered new starter decks. We're on the odd curve, and we can go first with Mr. 3 Gaudino, finding that 6-cost Mihawk that'll pair perfectly with the Buggy. Unfortunately, that Buggy will get removed in this deck relatively easy. I think Smoker's probably one of the better decks against Buggy if they can just continuously find their removal on curve, keeping up the tempo and removing our bodies so that we can't establish a big board. We'll see though, maybe we're going to be able to establish a big board and just make things really awkward for them. 3 Don, and we do not have a good play at all, which is a bummer. Would love to see a Sanji's Pilaf here or a Margaret. I'm thinking we just add 3 Don to our Mr. 3 Gaudino, swing 5 and 5, or maybe we just do 8,000 with Buggy. We'll do 5 and 5 starting out with Mr. 3 Gaudino. They take that first hit. Now we'll swing 5,000 with Buggy, and they're going to take that hit too. Is their hand bricked up, or are they just playing mind games with me? They do not know or maybe do not care that I run pudding, and so a pudding could be very devastating towards them if we do play it out. 5,000 into our Mr. 3, and for 4 Don, they will play the Borsellino. That Borsellino kind of has fell out of the meta recently. It used to be very popular in like OP5, OP6, OP7. Not as popular anymore, but still a really good card. I feel like a lot of people have forgotten about it. We're not going to swing just because we can't get around that Borsellino, but we will use leader ability to cheat out the 7-cost Buggy and the 6-cost Mihawk. We are in a really good spot with those on the board. They definitely won't be able to remove both of them, which is great. 6 Don for them to work with. They're going to start out with a Sengoku Searcher, trashing 2 cards from their hand, one being an Ice Age, which I feel like is risky. Ice Age can be really valuable in this matchup. And then they're also going to play down the Kuzan. This 4-drop Kuzan is going to be really annoying for us because I don't really have a great way to get rid of it this early in the game. Unfortunately, I do not run a Gravity Blade Raging Tiger. I don't run a Jozu. There's not going to be a great way for me to remove it. We're going to start off with a 7,000 power swing with our Mihawk, which they will block out of. Now 7,000 with our leader. We're going to do leader ability after this and then play out the Crocodile into a Mr. 1 Daz Bones. Drawing 2 cards, we can get rid of the promo Buggy, but I just remembered that they cannot swing with their Kuzan until they remove my 7-cost Buggy, so they might be able to do it this turn, and they knew that, so they didn't mind playing it out. But if they can't remove that Buggy, then they're going to have a problem. Unfortunately, they will easily be able to remove that Buggy using Ice Age and Tashigi. They'll be able to easily remove it, and that Kuzan will get value. At least we're in a decent spot with our bodies, and we still have 3 on the board. Being able to establish 3 is just kind of the key to winning, and just continue to develop bodies that they can't keep up with. 8,000 now into our Dracula Mihawk. We're definitely going to counter out of this. We do have plenty of 2Ks in our hand, and I think that's definitely going to be the move. Now, will they swing with 5-cost Kuzan? They will not. 4-cost Kuzan? They will not, just because they do not want us to swing back into it. It makes perfect sense to me. Here, we don't really have another option besides just swing into life and taxing their hand and just putting pressure on them, which is fine with me. 7,000, they will take that first one. Then they're going to counter out of the next one. They're getting rid of a Rebecca, which is good to get that out of their hand. We're swinging with all our bodies here just because we do not want to leave them standing up, because this deck runs so much removal that there's no guarantee we'll be able to get value out of it. Now 9,000 into them. They're going to take that too. And now we're just going to swing 9,000 again with our leader, putting them down to 0. This is going to be really hard for them to deal with. I originally planned to do Moji into Richie, but once I was able to get them down to 1 life, I thought swinging with our leader and 9,000 to either get a bunch of cards from hand or putting them at 0 was definitely the right move. They're going to start off with a 2-cost brand new and then a 1-cost Sengoku. They are searching for dear life. They're just looking for answers here. That now they can't play the Gecko Moria because they did use 3 down already, which is not amazing for them. They're probably just filtering their hand a little bit, trying to get as much counter as possible and hopefully find some blockers. They're going to do 6,000 into our Mr. 1 Des Bones. We'll keep it alive. Now 6,000 with their Kuzan. We will counter that as well. I should have blocked with Richie there, I think, just because it could be easily removed and we need to get some value out of it, or we should get some value out of it. We don't need to. We don't need to do anything in life, ladies and gentlemen. Now they're going to give 1 Don, 2 Don to Smoker, swing 8,000, and we can get value out of that Richie by blocking with it. 4 Don for them to work with. I feel like we're going to see a Rebecca here. And yeah, maybe they'll take a 2K from their trash or maybe play out a Brook. They're going to take the Tashigi from starter deck 6. That's a 2K and put it in their hand. Not going to play anything out using leader ability. We do have the Buggy, which allows us to pop the Rebecca, which is interesting. I don't think there's any way we lose this turn unless they just have so much counter in their hand, and it's ridiculous. 7,000 starting off with the Crocodile. I guess maybe there's an ideal way to math this out, but I think either way we're going to be all right. 7,000 now. They'll have to give us 2 cards. If they want to keep themselves alive, they will. They'll give us 2 2Ks. Now we're swing 7,000 with Mihawk. They have 2 2Ks again, and now I'm a little bit nervous, actually. Before I proceed any farther, I'm like, why don't I just use leader ability, cheat out the Buggy to pop the Rebecca, and then I'll be able to do 2 decent-sized swings with our leader and then Mr. 1 Des Bones. Once that happens, they quit. GG's. Bricked up hand you saw there. Jackson, Geckos, no counter, and it was over. GG's. Now onto a Lim matchup, and if you don't know, Lim gets so much better in OP10 with a ton of support. This is going to be a very interesting matchup. We do see the Mr. 3 Gaudino, which we love to play out early on in the game, not only to search, but also a good body to swing into some of their smaller bodies. For those that don't know, Lim does best when they have a lot of rested characters, and so they'll often swing small bodies, even if they're not killing anything or putting any pressure on, just so they can meet some of their character requirements in terms of rested characters. Using leader ability, they're able able to ramp and cheat out a 5-cost Doflamingo. That Doflamingo is really strong. There's an argument to be made that I should just throw all my Don on my leader and swing big into that Doflamingo, trying to remove it before it can get a ton of value. But I do play down the 3-cost Margaret because I do want to draw a card. In hindsight, maybe I should have just swung into that Doflamingo and either taxed their hand or just had to let them give it to me, because this Doflamingo is really just going to give them so much value. 6,000 now with their leader they're going to start off with. Do I really want to give them a 2K this early, or should I take this? That is the question. I could also block. That doesn't seem like a terrible idea either. I decided to give them the 2K out of my hand before I block with Margaret yet, just kind of seeing what they have planned for the rest of the turn. They'll probably swing 6,000 with Doflamingo straight up, and then maybe I give them another 2K. 8,000 with Doflamingo caught me off guard. They will use leader ability to cheat out something. We maybe should have blocked that 8,000 with Margaret. We're already down to 3 life, which does feel a little bit sketchy. For 3 Don using their leader ability, they're able to play down the Enel, which allows them to draw 3 cards and then trash 2 cards from their hand, getting a good cycle going, and yeah, just developing a decent sized body. During the cycle, they're going to trash a 9-cost Zoro. 9-cost Zoro was one of the best cards in their deck, and so that either means that they have another one, or maybe they're just worried about it getting popped off the board right away by a 10-cost Buggy. Interesting thing to keep in mind, I do have the 10-cost Buggy, and if they do play down the 9-cost Zoro, I will definitely be hitting their Zoro with that Buggy as soon as possible. To no one's surprise, they will counter out of that swing into the Enel, and then we'll use leader ability to cheat out Crocodile and Mr. 1 Daz Bones. This is good. It's going to help us develop a decent board to swing back into their board. Unfortunately, though, they do feel like they're really ahead of us and are in the lead in this game. 7,000 now at our leader. I think we should block out of this with our Margaret. Don't want to give them too many cards out of hand. Now 7,000 with their Doflamingo. They are really taxing us. At least this only leaves them with 7 Don to work with. I'm not exactly sure what they'll play on 7 Don. Maybe multiple bodies, probably multiple bodies. They will play down the Ace, which does allow them to rest. Maybe my Mr. 1 Daz Bones. They're going to rest my Mr. 3 Galdino, though. Sure, you can definitely take that. I'm happy to make my Mr. 3 Galdino a blocker. 8 Don to work with here. This might be a Dractyl Mihawk and 7-cost Buggy play. I kind of like that idea. I also could maybe cheat out a Richie to develop a blocker as well. Keeping 2 blockers on the board feels really good. It sounds really good. We'll start off by swinging 6,000 into their Ace, 6,000 to a 5,000 body. Please don't give me a 2K. Please just let this go. They will block with Doflamingo and then give us the 1K. Now we're going to swing 7,000 into the Ace. And yeah, they'll let that go, not wanting to give us 3K worth of counter. Now I'm debating, I probably should have swung with the Buggy into their Ace first before I did that. Maybe that's a little bit of a misplay, just to maximize the amount of counter I could get out of their hand. I'm leaning towards not doing the Richie play, even though I don't hate that idea. I'm thinking I'm just going to be content with one 7,000 power blocker. I'd rather go 8,000 into that Enel to try to get it off the board, but they do counter a lot with it. At least we're getting cards out of their hand. That is one thing that at least we do have, is card advantage in this matchup. Now we're going to do the 7-cost Buggy play, cheat out the Mihawk, and then off the Mihawk we do get to draw 2 cards, and we will trash that extra Mihawk. Mihawk's amazing, though. Maybe I should have gotten rid of a Crocodile. I think that would have been better, but it's not the end of the world. 10 Don for them to work with. They don't have any big bodies, which is noteworthy. They're going to start off by swinging 9,000 into the Crocodile. Do I really want to tax my hand and just give them a ton of cards to counter out of it? Yes, but I'm not going to. I'm going to show some restraint. Sometimes probably one of my biggest flaws as a One Piece player is just countering too much, and yeah, I do feel like that would have been a little bit too much for me to counter there. They do have another Enel that they can cheat out with leader ability. They're going to be able to draw 3, trash 2. One of the cards they trash is that audio promo. I don't think we've gotten it yet in the West, and I'm not sure when we're getting it, which is interesting. Now 9,000 at our Mr. 1 Daz Bones, and I am thinking of countering out of this just so I can keep bodies on the board so I can swing back into their board. We're giving them a ton of cards out of hand. That feels bad. Now 6,000 to the Mr. 1 Daz Bones, that we can free block that with the Mihawk, and now we're in a decent position. Definitely could be worse. I'm thinking here that we just go for board, really try to get as many characters off the board. I maybe should have allocated my Don a little bit differently, just so I can maximize the amount of pressure I can put on their characters. They are able to counter out of that first swing, and that feels really bad. I'm going to be a little bit risky here, and I'm going to play out the Moji, not able to draw a Richie, which isn't a big deal, and we're not going to play Richie out of our hand just because we're going to cheat out the 10-cost Buggy here. Cheating out the Buggy here and not waiting for them to have a big body might be a little bit questionable. I definitely think there would have been merit to me playing out a Crocodile and Moji and then Richie and swing into their board a little bit more, just because depending on what they have in their hand, they could hypothetically go for game here if they're able to rest or get around my Mihawk. So we're in a little bit of an awkward spot. If they drop like a 9 cost Zoro, that is going to be bad as well. That's going to feel so bad if they drop the 9 cost Zoro, because I don't know for sure if I'm able to go for game here. If they have counter events in their hand or able to drop a block or two, things could get awkward. 9,000 now with their first NL, and I think we just take this. I don't think it makes sense to counter just yet. I think we should wait to see how this turn goes. And maybe next turn we go for lethal. I mean, with 3 life cards, going for lethal is pretty crazy. We'll see what we can get, though. We do get a 7 cost promo Buggy, which is not very valuable in this situation, but maybe we just use it to use leader ability. Now, going to be 9,000 with their leader into our life or into that Mr. 1 Daz Bones. I guess I'd prefer them go into the Daz Bones, and they will. This is perfect for us. I definitely think they should have swung into life there and just put pressure on us, but maybe they're worried about us going for lethal. They're going to swing into our life. We're going to take that, and we do get another 10 cost Buggy, which is absolutely perfect. We are going to be able to pressure their board here, clear their board, and then we should be all right to go for game next turn. We're going to cheat out the Buggy 10 cost, bottom deck one of their NLs. Now we can swing 12,000 into their other NL, clear their board a little bit. I shouldn't have swung 12,000 into that NL. I think I would have been fine just swinging lower numbers and swinging 12,000 into their life in case they protect their life here. 6,000 though, and they won't protect their life there. 7,000 here. I wouldn't be surprised if they counter, but they can't counter, I guess, because they took that. Now we are going to cheat out that Richie. This gets rid of us meeting the requirements of all 5 cost or higher characters, but I think having that extra blocker on the field is just so important. If they were hypothetically able to get around the Mihawk, now we've got another blocker on the field. This deck can't really fully utilize Hody Jones just because Hody Jones would come out rested. So Limbs don't typically run the Hody Jones. They're going to play down the Eustace Captain Kid, which I think will be able to get around relatively easily, hopefully. I mean, another 10 cost Buggy here would be so nice, just so we could bounce it and not have to worry about swinging into it. I definitely make a misplay here, and instead of just swinging 12,000 first and forcing them to give me an event or counter, I'm just going to swing really big. Why would I do this? Using up all my Don right away just to swing big and kind of guaranteeing it gets off the board doesn't really make a ton of sense. We get the Eustace Captain Kid off the board, which is great. They are going to be able to counter out of my Moji swing. 5,000 now with my leader. I imagine they'll be able to counter out of this. They do have 1 Don up, which I assumed is for an event, but they could be faking it as well. They have the 2K to get out of that. Now 12,000 with Buggy. They are going to take that, and I could be a little bit greedy and swing with that Mihawk. I don't even think that would be that greedy, but I'm going to play it really, really, really safe and play down another Richie. They're going to play down the promo, or not promo, the OP10 limb. That's 1 cost, and then the 3 cost limb. They're doing some searching. They've got a Doflamingo, but I think at this point it's going to be GG's just because we've got 2 10 cost Buggies on the board and Mihawk and our leader swing as well. So I'm feeling pretty good. They probably should not have gotten rid of that 9 cost Zoro in the beginning of the game. If they were able to get that out early, the game definitely would have gone differently. But of course, I did have not 1 but 2 Buggies to get rid of it relatively easily. So yeah, GG's. That was a really fun one. I feel like we really battled back. Ladies and gentlemen, those are the games I got for you today. What did you think about them? I've been having a ton of fun with this leader, and this 7 cost promo Buggy changes everything. I'm not being hyperbolic. This is such an amazing card in this deck, and it feels good that us Buggy Chads are eating right now, and our deck is becoming more valuable. With that being said, if you made it this far in the video, shout out to you. You're an absolute real one. Consider hitting that subscribe button if you haven't already. We're trying to hit 1,500 by the end of the month, and you can help make that happen. Let me know what other leaders you want me to play. Let me know what other leaders you want me to play. Let me know how this deck list could be changed. And with that being said, peace. Don't forget to subscribe.